We are back on Morning Line. That's our final segment this morning with Vice-Mayor Jim Shulman. We can take your calls if you'd like to ask a question. We've covered a lot of ground this morning. You know, it was interesting. We had, his name's escaping me for a moment here, but we had him on last week, the director of all of Metro's libraries. What's his name? Mary Elena. We had him on last week. Anyway.
Now that you ask me now, it's like
I know. I put you on the spot. I know you know him.
Ken Oliver.
Yes. Yeah. Bingo, thank you. Anyway, he came on, and he was just, we had him on, it was kind of for Banned Book Week, and we talked about how that is, but he talked about what's happening with the libraries now, and how they're going to be opening, and open on Fridays, and he just said, you know, we had some really lean times, but over the past year stuff, Metro Council and stuff, things have stabilized. Mm-hmm. And I thought of you, because that had a lot to do, ultimately, with that very controversial property tax increase, and balancing the budget and coming back. He didn't say that, but that came into my head that, well, at least we have this revenue flow, and by no means does the library get a ton of money, but enough to stabilize and recognize the value, and you guys have made it so that they can open most of the library branches, more than 20 of them, on Fridays too.
Yeah.
So cool.
You go back and you look at all that, and I know people are still mad about that, but the city was in financial crisis, and people can argue about how we got there, but we were, and you know, I give the mayor and the council credit. They saw that need and they filled it.
Right.
And people didn't like it, and it was during a really tough time. But at this point, city is not. We're not talking about a financial crisis at this point.
No.
Kevin Crobo, the former budget director, yeah, kudos to him as well. So we're not in that, and we're now trying to deal with a health crisis. You know, you can only deal with so many crises at a time. Financial crisis, we're not in that right now.
Right.
So that actually is a good thing for the city.
Yeah.
We have to deal with these other issues. Obviously we've got to get through this pandemic. We've got to figure out how to do that. We've got these side issues like the transportainment stuff, other stuff. We've got I know there's a lot of issues going on with people experiencing homelessness that we have to deal with. Affordability, affordable housing, and the affordability of living here. So we have to, it's almost like, you know, you deal with the crisis at a time, and then you got to shift. You're always dealing with all these different things. Affordability, very, very important at this point.
Yeah, that's a big deal. Yeah, we didn't even touch on that this morning as we just wrap it up. But affordability, I thought maybe the housing market was softening a bit. I mean, for a while there, people were offering way above asking price and all this. I talked to a realtor the other day, and she told me, listen, Nick, it's not changed. Instead of the homes selling within hours, they're selling within a few days.
Yeah.
But it is still red hot, is what she said, and the prices are through the roof, and a lot of people are selling their little places, which are then getting torn down and rebuilt into something really fancy. And you wonder where they're going. You know, over there near the fairgrounds where they're putting in the new soccer stadium and all that, and a lot of the development around there, and there's some older homes there that you can tell, very small ones. I think some of those people there are, realizing, all right, I'm going to sell now. I don't know where they're going, but they're being replaced with, tall skinnies and condos and all kinds of stuff, and they're expensive.
I do worry seriously about that. I worry about it from a standpoint that, financially, economically. I mean, go back to, it's not the same thing, but 2008, 2009, when people were investing in all kinds of stuff with no base or ceiling underneath it, and then we went into a Great Recession. All of a sudden, all these prices went sky high. People can't afford to live here. What are we doing?
Right.
And but it's happening in lots of places. It's not just here. It's happening in Austin. It's happening in other places. These markets are just, the real estate market is red hot. And the question is, do we just have to build enough to get it on the other side where all of a sudden we have too much supply and not enough demand, and so the prices start coming back down? And what does that mean? I don't know. I'm not an economics professor. I do not know that. I worry for the people overall of Nashville that we're pricing everybody out. We're pricing a lot of people out of the market.
What will that mean if they get priced out? Because I'm thinking if you can't afford to live here, but there's so many jobs and a lot of people want to work here, but driving into town, if you live outside the area, is a drag. We don't have any good public transit to get people from outside the area in. I know there's some buses, but that can be unreliable, especially if you have to be at work in time. If we had a light rail system or something like that, which is just not going to happen, at least not anytime soon, that would be an answer. But I mean, people can't commute from outside into the city easily. So the businesses, where are they going to hire to get people? They don't live nearby.
People are having trouble right now. But you're exactly right.
That's right. Yeah.
So if you
I don't know
sell,
what the answer is.
You sell, you have a small house here, you sell for over its value because you think that's what you should do. They tear it down. The developers build 2 tall skinnies that are twice as expensive or 3 times as expensive. You take your money, you can't find a place to live. You live further out, or you live in Wilson County, or you live someplace else, Rutherford County. And then you have to figure out a way to get back in.
Yeah, and it's getting farther and farther out. For a while there was Mount Juliet. I've since moved from Mount Juliet to Lebanon. A little farther. That's about as far out as I want to commute each day. But I mean, Mount Juliet's crazy now. I mean, it is packed and crowded, and the home value's there. So even the surrounding areas now. And so it's just going farther. I don't know ultimately what'll happen. You know, like you said, you worry about that. And a lot of people that live downtown, or even those who can afford it, are now saying, I've had it, because they're tired of these, you know, the buses and everything else downtown. They don't want to put up with that crap anymore, and they're just trying to get out.
Well, so then everybody starts yelling and go, you're the government, fix it.
Yeah.
It's not as easy, obviously. If there were answers, we'd be trying to do it. But this is very difficult, and these are problems that we're going to have to continue to face long after I'm vice mayor, and we're just going to have to keep doing it.
Yeah. Okay. So the meeting tonight, is there going to be any public comment at tonight's meeting?
The only public comment is for public hearings on zoning issues.
Zoning issues. That'll be it.
I do expect some people to be there on the transportainment stuff, but that would be at the committee. We no longer have a public works committee. It's a transportation committee. Councilmember Zach Young, this will be his first meeting tonight, and he's got the bill.
Okay, so he gets the bill.
I mean, he's got it in his committee. Freddie O'Connell has the bill.
Freddie O'Connell has the bill. Okay, so that'll basically be it. But you think the meeting will go late? And we were actually talking, Emily Luxon, I think, she may not be able to be there tonight, but she usually covers it for us here. And she was just saying that the mask bill may not come up till later in the evening.
52-page calendar. I know. So a lot of it, by the time we get through some of the administrative stuff at the beginning, it may be, we start at 6:30, maybe 7:30. I think we've got 12 or 13 or 14 pages of public hearings. Depends on whether we have anything that, you know, is got a lot of people who are mad about something. And so if you keep an eye on it, if it's 9 or 9:30 and we're still trying to get through our public hearing, we're going to be there for a while. Now, I will say, you can look at a calendar. We have a lot of bills on first reading, which we pass in mass. So that'll clear off a lot of it. The second reading, it's the transportainment bill, and the third reading is the mask mandate. Those are the
third reading is the one. If it passes on third reading, it becomes.
If the mask mandate passes on third reading, there are amendments on those bills. We have to see if they can get on. If it passes on third reading, it becomes, unless the mayor does something to it, vetoes it or whatever. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens tonight.
When would it take effect? How quickly?
I think the mask mandate, takes effect as soon as it becomes a law, as soon as it's signed in.
As soon as signed. So it could be as soon as, you know, next week or something like that if it were to pass on third reading tonight. Yeah.
So we'll be watching and see.
What's the longest meeting you've ever had?
Till 5:30 in the morning.
5:30 in the morning. So you basically stay till you get through the agenda.
We can adjourn, but then we have to pick up where we left off. We can adjourn to a date certain. I don't think we'll be there until 5:30 in the morning, but we'll be there for a while tonight.
Right. Okay. Listen, I appreciate you coming on this morning. I really do. And we'll follow up and see how that goes. The only reason I ask on the timing of that, because that's one of the stories we're going to want to have for the 10 o'clock news. And you may not get to it by 10 o'clock, So we may not know what happens on second reading. So you just have to follow us on social media, and then we'll have it in the morning show.
We're going to have it for you by 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. How about that?
By 6 o'clock. Well, if it gets to that. Listen, Jim Shulman, thanks for coming on. As always, a pleasure, my friend. We'll see you again before too long. We'll take a break. I'll be back with a programming note about tomorrow right after this. Stay with us.